Well, good evening and welcome to Trev Talks Tech. So, what's going on here? If you've watched my cruise video, by the way, of the Insta360 camera 360 shots, that's just been out. So, check that out if you just love beautiful scenery, like in places like Norway. That's a thing. But the reason I'm here now is to look at this. Darlexa, give me a weather report.
Currently, in Durban it's 22 degrees Celsius with mostly sunny skies. Tonight, we can expect cloudy skies northern and with a low of 14 degrees.
Okay, so I've been alluding to this for a while, and yes, I'd like you all to meet Darlexa. So, you can hear
I'm
it.
not quite sure how to help you with that.
That's okay, Darlexa, you don't have to be. So, what's going on here? Well, I had this crazy idea a while ago that just based on putting the two words together of how cool it would be if I could put an Amazon Echo inside a Dalek body and with some sort of distortion circuit and something to drive the headlights. I didn't want it to be fully functional remote control. I do have one of the BBC Dalek toys from about 25 or 20 or so years ago, which is like that, and it's currently in a bit of a sorry state because the head motor's not working, and I'm going to make that the subject of a future project. That's going to be quite a long process and a heck of a video to try and get everything back together, probably going between here in my electrical workshop and also in the more mechanical workshop environment in the garage. So a couple of things to do there. So the I'll put a lot of the details in the notes for this video, but there are some separate things going on here that I've just sort of put together. First of all, and what really kind of inspired this whole thing was the being able to find this entire Dalek body to 3D print on the Bambu Studio. And there are a couple of ways you can actually go about this. I chose the very expensive way, plastic speaking, because I've got the whole thing to print from the ground up with all these colours. And of course, it actually took about 2 days to complete. There was so much printer poop, I even had to clear the waste out and give it a little bit of an enema before it could carry on, so to speak. And that was because of just how many layers in different colours there are here. In hindsight, I wouldn't do that again. It turns out that in the file there is an alternative way to do this, and you can actually print these separately, which would have made everything a lot easier. I also, because I didn't have the light brown colour or the gold colour, I chose not to use that. So I thought purple is quite fetching, and I think personally it works fine. My wife thinks it looks a little bit like a Cadbury's dairy milk, but with the purple and the brown together. So there you go. So this is built up in several sections. I'm going to take this apart in a bit so you can have a look at everything that's involved here. You might be able to hear it. It is making a little bit of a rumbly hissy noise. The distortion circuit's oscillator does tend to make a bit of noise, I have to admit. So it's more of a novelty thing, bring it out at parties and that sort of stuff, rather than have it running all the time. I don't really feel the need to have it running constantly, but it was a great fun project to do. So the body, the shoulders, and the neck rings and the dome unit all were part of the original build. The only things I modified were the eye stalk. The eye stalk was not designed to have an LED on the end originally. Now this is extremely fine along here. You can see in relation to my finger just how fine the actual eye stalk there is. So when I tell you that I actually manually drilled down that, holding it in one hand and while drilling with a very fine drill with the other down there, I can tell you that was quite an interesting job. But what it enabled me to do was to thread a couple of copper enamel copper wires down there, twisted together, and then to solder the LED onto the end of it. I did have to extend the eyepiece slightly because the original one was too shallow for the LED. I also had to move out the transparent, had to make that transparent at the end. The original one wasn't transparent, it would have been blue, just blue plastic. I've turned this into a transparent piece, and of course that means that the LED is going to shine through, and also had to change where that was glued on. Lots of super glue in this, but then that's what you get with 3D plastic modelling, isn't it? Speaking of super glue, I also had to glue the eye or earpiece LEDs on as well. Again, the original ones of these had a solid internal plastic, but I turned that into a translucent plastic for the purpose of the exercise. Darlexa, give me a news report. She's not listening now. Apparently they can be temperamental too, just like the real thing. Darlexa, give me a news briefing. Darlexa, give me a news briefing.
Getting a flash briefing. From BBC News.
So it still suffers from some of the niggles that you might have with the original Amazon Echoes, not listening to you while they're running and stuff like that. But it just goes to show what it can do. Now, of course, the distortion, it can be a little bit too much. I'm going to put up a diagram of the distortion circuit here. It's based around an LM567, which has a voltage controlled oscillator. I'll also put the details of the website that where I found that information, because credit where credit's due to the person in question. And please do, if you're interested in building something like this, do go to that site and have a look at what they're showing, and maybe find a version of this that works for you. I also say I will put up the circuit, but essentially what's happening is the 567 we're feeding in the voice input to that, and it's being mixed about with the voltage controlled oscillator which is within that chip, which obviously produces a modulated output. Now that output is being fed to a second circuit, and this circuit is an LM386 amplifier, a little 8-pin IC amplifier, and it's feeding a 3-watt speaker inside here. Now this is all quite solid, so actually the output for the speaker is underneath. One thing I haven't yet done, I intend to print a translucent base for this to stand on, which will hold it slightly above the table level, so that you can see the blue LEDs under here when they run will actually provide a little bit of that blue kind of glowing hovery sort of effect which we've seen in the Daleks ever since they started being able to climb stairs. Speaking of underneath, so there is the Amazon Echo Dot. That was the original first generation Echo Dot. I bought one off eBay. I think I paid about £30 for it at the time. You'll probably get them for significantly less now. And rather than hack it about and try to get into the subtle electronics, I pretty much used it as it is. I did do a teardown of this, the actual unit, just to take it apart. I can't remember if I put that online yet, but I will do. Anyway, so I'm actually just taking the line output from this and feeding that directly into the distortion circuit, and then that feeds into the LM386 amplifier circuit, which is powering the speaker inside. Most of the sound from that speaker is coming out from underneath. Now, I suppose I could have done things differently. I could have maybe tried to tap off the output from inside the Echo unit and feed that through the distortion circuit, and then back into the speaker circuit that's actually in this unit. That would have been a more elegant way to do it, but it was also a much more faffy way to do it. So I decided to keep this hole. If I ever break this down for any reason or decide to change anything, I've still got a perfectly functional echo dot there that I don't have to mend or do anything else with. There's a little switch here. That switch goes between that. If I turn that off, that actually removes the distortion circuit from everything, and you can hear just how quiet that is now. The distortion circuit does make a lot of noise. I'm just going to put that up close to the camera, and hopefully you can hear. All of that is due to the distortion circuit. Maybe it just needs a few more capacitors, a bit more filtering perhaps. I've already put a small filtering cap on there. But if I take the distortion circuit out of it, it's you can see it sounds a lot quieter. And it also should sound more perceptible as well, intelligible, because clearly without the distortion circuit you should be able to hear it better. So let's try this. Darlexa, what's the weather like?
Right now in Derby, it's 20 degrees Celsius with partly sunny skies. Tonight's forecast has cloudy skies moving in and out, with a low of 14 degrees.
Okay, so let's just do that again with the distortion circuit in place. Darlexa, what's the weather like?
Right now in Derby, it's 20 degrees Celsius with partly sunny skies. Tonight's forecast has cloudy skies moving in and out, with a low of 14 degrees.
There you go. So that's what it sounds like if we bring the distortion circuit back in. Now, okay, you might argue that's not the most authentic Dalek voice you've ever heard, but complete with the visual impression of the unit itself, I think that does the job. So let's unplug it from the supply. Let's just unplug it from the charger here, and we're going to take it apart. And so just going to pause there. I'll be right back when I'm ready to show you what we do next. Okay, so here it is, the base of Darlexa. Now, first of all, again, to try and save too much messing about with the supply here, all I did was bring a standard cable in. And what I did was to purchase and then to attach a splitter. So actually inside here, as we'll see, there is a split between the power supply going into this and one going into the circuit board. I think I had some super glue on the end. I think that if I think back now, I was actually using some super glue to glue the lens onto the eyepiece, and I think some of it got onto the end of the hex key here, the Allen key, if you will, and that is why I couldn't get the darn thing into the M3 bolt there. So that's better. I'm coming in now. So inside here, let's just take that apart there. Can hardly complain about the quality of the construction of this since I put it together myself. Right, inside we have the main unit. I've to find a relatively comfortable way of arranging the wiring so it doesn't all fall to pieces. Ah, that's fallen off. Well, no wonder that wasn't making us as much noise as it should. Right, so there we go. Here on the inside, so you can see the inside of the Amazon unit here. I can take that off of there, and also I can disconnect that from there. The only thing holding the whole thing together now that is, yeah, this one switch. So again, for your delectation and delight here, folks, I hope you appreciate this. I'm going to just disconnect the switch as well. This is a right pain to put together. But you know, this is YouTube. This is what we do. So let's just remove that switch, and that means I should be able to disconnect this whole thing. So that's the line in cable there. So that's now free. There's the base of it. And yeah, my only limitation here was going to be taking the full headpiece off. So I hope you'll forgive me if I actually show you this circuit without being fully disconnected from inside the headpiece here. So here we go. Let me just take you through what's going on in here. So first of all, we've got the line in. The line in from the jack socket, it's coming straight off the external Amazon Echo, is going in here. Let me just get a bit more light on that. That'll help, won't it? So the line in is going in here. That's straight on this cable, and then we've got the input capacitor, and then we're going into the LM567. We've got a couple of components around here, one of which enables us to will enable you to change the frequency basically of the oscillator, and it has this weird effect when it does that. It depends on what the pitch of the input signal is as to how distorted or how audible or how still intelligible that is. So yeah, whether you quite do it like that or not, that's another matter. Anyway, so that's that. There is a couple of other capacitors around that to do with the oscillation circuit, and the output capacitor is on the adjacent pin to the input one. That then, the output of that is then going down the Vera board. It's going down the strip board, and it's feeding into this LM386 amplifier. Now I've got the option here with the switch. The switch is either putting the input directly into the distortion circuit, or bypassing that and sending it straight to the amplifier. So when we go into the amplifier, that is just doing what amplifiers do, powering the loudspeaker. So here's I'll just reattach the speaker to the sidewall. Doesn't want to come off. There we go. So there's my speaker. Meanwhile, if we look in here, I've got a BC337 transistor, which is just there. Hope that's visible on the camera. Okay. If you can see that, I'll put up a little circuit for this. So the BC337 is biased with a little preset variable resistor just here, just biased off, and it's being fed with the audio output from the chip. So very, very simple indeed. Just an input capacitor feeding into the transistor, and that is then obviously being biased on by the audio signal. That then in turn, all that is then doing is feeding up and powering the two ears here as well. The eye stalk doesn't have any modulation or anything going on, so that just comes on to say that there's power. And that's essentially it. That's all leading. They've got the wiring there leading up into the very head of the thing, and all that going on. Now while I'm here, I just need to do a little bit of tightening, because the sucker arm that you can see there is just a little bit on the loose side, and there is an adjustment nut for this on the inside. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a tweak while I'm here. Try and make that a little bit more rigid so I can pose it in the correct, in whatever desired position. So The other thing to point out here that I did, now the original print for this had some little plastic clips that you push through mating pairs of holes to get the appropriate connections between all the sections of this model. But I wanted something that was going to be a little bit more robust, and so I invested in a kit which includes these little brass inserts here. So up here you've got these little brass inserts. These are M3 threads, and they are knurled so that when you basically melt them into the hole, you create the appropriate size hole for an M3 thread, and you just melt those into place, and hey presto, instead of having to put a clip through there, you can now hold on to that with an M3. There you go. There you go. The sucker arm is now a lot more posable, which is what I wanted. Hello. Right. So there you go. That's the guts of the thing. So going to put this all back together, and then we will see how it works once again. So I'm just waiting for the Echo unit to finish connecting to the internet. That does take a moment to do, but while it's doing it, you get that swirl of blue light around the edge, and that of course only adds to the effect underneath the base. Once I've got that clear stand for it to sit on, not just a plastic Tupperware lid, then that's going to be even better. Yep, I can pose the arm now with it not just flopping down on me. There we go. The gun's a little bit stiffer than it needs to be, but there you know, it's not, the engineering is not exactly perfect on it. Don't expect it to be. The eye stalk, I did. Now the eye stalk component has a little sort of trunnion arrangement inside here, and so the wires go straight through the back of it. And of course, one of the side effects of that is that it has limited the amount of the range of movement. But for posability, I think being able to look down and look up to that level is really quite enough. Yeah, I don't really want it to be standing, the eye stalk to be standing dead upright, which I could probably make it do otherwise. Darlexa, what's the weather like?
Not now, Daddy. It's 20 degrees Celsius with partly sunny skies. Tonight's forecast is cloudy skies northern and night, with a low of 14 degrees.
And there you have it. So, there you go. Darlexa is complete. I could do a few tweaks. I could probably improve the voice a bit, maybe try and work on the filtering, and try and bring down the amount of noise that the distortion circuit makes when it's not in use. But those are things. I was just happy to get it to this stage, to be honest. I am thinking of building another one. My next one, I will make some changes. The next one, firstly, will be all black. I intend to actually produce one all in black, rather like the Dalek Sec model, which I've already got, the BBC one, which I want to rebuild. So it'll be all black. I'll probably use a slightly better colour for the gun and these. Probably more. I've got some more silvery silk colour now, plastic now. And again, similar arrangement for the eye stalk. That seems to have worked pretty well, I have to say. These have been brilliant. These are 5mm blue LEDs in here, and the printing as provided made that extremely easy to do. All I had to do was change the plastic there. That's clear PLA rather than the original opaque one. Yeah, so the new version will also have a line in, rather than actually incorporating another Echo unit, because as fun as that was, I don't think I want to do that again. I think having a line into this and you effectively making it like a Bluetooth speaker would be far better. Could even build a Bluetooth speaker into it, to be honest, and then perhaps add a distortion circuit and the light drivers and everything into that. I have also, I apologise if I've mentioned this already on previous videos, but I have here the teensy microcontroller based DVM7 Dalek voice module 7, which is designed for people who are using a full-size Dalek. Yeah, so this is designed to run off about 12 volts and has inputs for a microphone and an output socket. It also has the ability to fire, to trigger the ear lamps and also the gun. So if you could have all those things on a full-size version. I just built this out of just for the fun of it, really. But now, yes, it would be great fun perhaps to incorporate this into another one of these, because I'll be honest, I'm not building a full-size Dalek anytime soon. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for keeping up with my various crazy exploits, and I hope that you'll be back and looking at another one of my videos soon. But I'm going to leave the last word to Darlexa. Darlexa, say goodbye to everyone. Goodbye.